Welcome back, and thank you for tuning in to the Sandwich of Coherency podcast. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Recently, there was a school shooting in Texas where you had an 18-year-old getting into a physical altercation with a 15-year-old in his classroom. Now, the 18-year-old decided to end this situation by shooting the 15-year-old 4 times, as well as grazing another student that was released. And the 15-year-old is currently in the ICU. As well, he shot the teacher, and it's reported that the teacher was shot in the back. So there's just all kinds of questions about that, but according to the child's parents, the kid was bullied, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on between the two prior to this, it seems. Now, what's being reported, though, is that when the other child was actually shot, the altercation had already ended. So according to the school, the fight was already over, and apparently the two had already been calmed down. And it's at that point where the 18-year-old decided to reach in his backpack and pull out his gun and shoot the 15-year-old, apparently 4 times. So the way that they're trying to spin it across the mainstream, in this way that it was in the heat of the moment of self-defense that he did it, is just a false spin on the narrative. When you're considering the fact that the school actually stated that the fight was already over. Now, the school, let's go ahead and admit, was at fault, because according to both families, there have been prior altercations, and the school had been informed of this and made aware multiple times and did nothing about it. So there still needs to be some accountability to the school for their fault in this, because this could have been prevented in some ways. Especially if there could have been counseling between the 2 children given at the school. But according to the parents, or rather according to the mother, the child was being robbed and having his clothes taken, and a lot of things were being done to him because apparently his family was affluent, or was more affluent than the other children, it seems. And I think that might be why you don't see too much about this posted all over the news. You're not hearing this all over CNN and every left-wing media going ape about shooting in schools and how we must do something about the guns. And does it have something to the fact that it was 2 black kids? Does it not fit the narrative because it wasn't a white kid shooting the school up? Because as the lawyer tried to put it, as the child who did the shooting, as his attorney tried to put it, there's a difference between a school shooting and a mass shooting. I'm just basically trying to create some kind of level to give some sympathy to it. Trying to create some compassion for the shooter. Look, if the kid was being bullied, that's no good, okay? That is not something that should be condoned, and something should be done about that at all. But there's got to be a middle step in between this to break down the thought processes that went through this kid's mind of the things that he was going on, to the point to where he had to think this out. Because it wasn't like it was out in the street or anything like that. He brought this to school under the guise of saying, let's say it's self-defense. And maybe he believed he really needed that. But that still gives some intent. And the child shouldn't have to have gone through that, but at the same time, the way the media is portraying him as the victim, flaunting the family's welcome home party as the child was only charged with $75,000 bond, which his family was able to make up the percentage of that for him to be released, which he was released less than 24 hours after shooting these people. And should we question why the bond was set so low? There's just many implications to it. None of them are good. This raises so many questions, and both families need to have some accountability for this. The school needs to have some accountability for this, and the child needs to get some help. But the reality is, he also needs to have some accountability for this. And I just hope that there's a good outcome. I hope the child that was shot survives. I hope that nobody dies, and I hope that there's some serious help got for this child so that this could be prevented later in the future. Whatever that mind process is that he's going through, that gave him the notion that this would be a suitable means to the situation, needs to be evaluated. So, but that also brings into light of other things, and this comes down to, I'm just going to touch on this for a second, the idea of mandating things for children. Okay, the idea is simply, do parents have the right to feel that their children are safe when they send them to these public places? If there is a government study or some paper written, some medical paper that says that, as I said before, children should be mandated to have mental evaluations before they can attend public school, and they should all be on some kind of stabilizer to keep their levels and their moods on a level playing field, keep their chemical balance, and their moods level, so that they don't have these type of reactions. If they say that's the case, and that should be, and they say your child has never had any problems, they've never had any violent outbursts, but another parent says that your child has to take these things, and they can say we have enough studies to show that they work. It's best to be preventative. If all children are on it, we have less risk of any means of outburst. And for the parents that don't want to have the mental evaluations or have them on these medications, we can put them in special schools where they won't interact with the rest of the people and risk putting them in harm's way. What if they proposed that? What if they said it needed to be mandatory, federal guideline? Would you question then? What if they said that they found that for young men, we have a study that says, well, boys are aggressive, and when boys are growing up, in order to prevent such aggressions and to keep them more mellow like young females, we should, to make them more, or just less violent, or whatever they want to say. They say that we need to give them estrogen shots to make this so, and we find that they say it works. Would you question the study? Would you question whom paid for it, whom proposed it? Would you fight back then? The reason I'm saying this is because there was an attempt at this. Because it came out in 2020 that a 16-year-old boy who was being held at a juvenile hall in Los Angeles developed breasts. And the reason he developed breasts is because the doctors said that he because of his aggressive type behavior, a young boy being young boy, they found that it would make him more compliant and agreeable. This is what they said their reasoning was. This boy's getting into fights. He's, being rough with the other kids. Maybe we should give him some estrogen to calm him, lower his testosterone. They did not know the long-term results of this, but they found out very quickly after he developed a pair of breasts. But what if, and this is the whole idea of connecting that to these mandates. We don't know what the long term of these new vaccines are. But that's another story. We'll get into that another day. The next thing I want to talk about, I want to finish out with the border and the reports of a 60,000 migrant caravan of Haitians, which in the next 15 to 23 days are set to make their way toward the U.S. border. They're coming out from South America, and right now they are being held in southern borders of Mexico, a town called Tapachula. So they're being led by an American, or rather Central American citizen with dual citizenship, but he does have American citizenship, and he works for a group called Pueblos Sin Fronteras, People Without Borders. His name is Reño Mujica. Now, apparently there were altercations with the Mexican National Guard and the military trying to keep them from moving forward. So the protesters got violent, and it seems like in the altercations, women and children had got hurt, which nobody condones violence at all, and I wish it didn't have to come to that, and I'm sorry that it came to that. I hope nobody's seriously hurt, but using the same ideals that you hear from people in the United States, would you say that the Mexicans are racist? Because according to new terminology, only certain people can be racist. So is what the Mexican National Guard doing to the Haitians trying to make their way to the United States racist? I don't think so. The reality is that many of them will stay. It is as a process them, it is a large cost. Mexico does not have the same kind of economy that the United States does. So it's an extra burden on them, and they already struggle as it is with their own citizens. So what it's looking like is that what they're saying is that they're hoping that the Mexican government will give them papers to pass to the United States. But if they don't, with or without papers, we are going to get to the United States to get what they believe is theirs. Their right to be in America. And it is, according to them, their right to be let into the United States. Now, those that are seeking asylum, that are actually escaping from conditions of life and death, yes, though everyone should be helped. But a lot of the people that are coming are migrant workers. They're looking for work. Don't let them sell this on you like 60,000 people have fled because they're escaping violence. They're looking for work. And it's part of the problem with the Central American migration. They're looking for work. And it is not solely, and it's not really the fault of the citizens themselves. More so, it is the fault of the Central American governments that, in their partnership with the United States, created the CAFTA, the Central American Free Trade Agreement. The idea, you make this part, I'll make this part, I won't make this part, so you can make it in your country, so your citizens can benefit and make a profit, and I'll make these things here, so our citizens can make a profit. The only problem is, nobody at the bottom has made a profit. Everybody is losing. And the result of that, and the proof of that Central American Free Trade Agreement not working, is the mass migrations out of those nations looking for work. So just remember, according to Musica, they are coming to get what they believe is their right, and they are ready to go to war. I don't know how you want to take that, but there's only so many ways you can take that. I don't think they mean it so much in the metaphorical sense. And as of right now, the state of Texas is preparing for this because the federal government refuses and is currently at the moment trying to pull border agents from the border. Now, this is not to say that people shouldn't be helped, people shouldn't be given assistance, because they should. There's a lot of things we got to look at, and a lot of it stems from, can the United States really afford it? And I'll go into this, and I will have a guest on, and we will hear coming soon in the next couple of days, and we'll go deeper into this, but I want to leave you with this part here. The United States is broke. A lot of people don't understand how broke the United States is. So I'll give you a rundown. Just in 2000, when George Bush took office, George Bush Jr., the United States had a $5 trillion deficit. After 8 years, it had a $10 trillion deficit. After 8 years of Obama, it had a $20 trillion deficit. And in those 8 years, this debt ceiling, platinum $1 trillion coin IOU that they want to give to the Fed so that they will give them another $1 trillion on paper that they can't pay back as it is. Well, that happened twice during the Obama administration. In the 4 years of Trump, until the COVIDs happened, his presidency was on par to add another 3.5 to 5 trillion to the deficit, making it actually one of the lower additions to the deficit. But right now, the Biden administration wants to add another 3.5 to 5 trillion. But there's more on that to come, and we will get into that next time. So I thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great night.